Hi everyone, this is Quantitative Finance with Python Final Project, a study of ETFs and factors implemented. This is Team 24. We're going to look at research on potential ETFs, exposure to factors by regression, ranking, portfolio construction with combined factors, and implementation on the cheapest ETF portfolio. So the three factors we chose are market, size, and value, and we pulled data from Bloomberg and Kenneth French data library of the month returns for the last 5 years of ETFs, and we conducted time series regression on those ETFs. And after we get the attributes of each ETF, we rank them by appraisal ratio, exposure, and expense. Appraisal ratio represents how much return relative to 1 unit of tracking error. Exposure represents of how much tracking error relative to 1 unit of exposure, and expense represents how much expense relative to 1 unit of return. And then we assign 20% to the appraisal ratio and 40% on exposure and expense because we want to place more weight on exposure to the factor and how cheap it is to invest. And based on the ranking, we selected the top 6 ETFs, which are listed on the right side of the slide. Now that we know that those are 6 ETFs we want to include in our portfolio, we decided to use 4 strategies to see which one is the optimal portfolio. So under MVE, mean variance efficient, and minimum variance, risk parity, and equal weighted, we decided that given that MVE returns the highest Sharpe ratio, MVE portfolio is our optimal portfolio. Now that we know the strategies to be used to construct our optimal portfolio, we figured out the weight allocation on top ETF selected. As you can see, although it is not a phenomenal difference, but more weights are placed on small cap ETFs than that of large cap ETFs. And we are surprised to see that market factor ETFs has such a high weight. It's probably because the data limitation, given we only have 10 ETFs under market factor. And after we combine ETFs under the same factor, we're able to figure out a weight allocation on ETFs by factors. Now let's look at the difference in allocation under MVE portfolio. So if we trade ETFs only, our weights look like this. So the blue plot represents the weight on ETFs under factors. So market factor has the highest weight, and we're actually shorting size and value factor. But if we trade factors directly, less weights are placed on market factor. We're placing more weights on size and value, and instead we're shorting on market factors. Now let's take a look at the implementation of factors. Now that we know that market has a higher weight, let's look deeper into it. So we decided to evaluate it under 2 criteria: cost ratio and exposure ratio. Cost ratio represents how much exposure with relative to 1 unit of expense ratio. The higher the better, and exposure ratio showcases how much exposure with relative to 1 unit of tracking error. Again, the higher the better. Now that market factor ETF has higher on both criteria, we just conclude that market factor ETF is the cheapest investment vehicle relative to factor exposure.